In September 2011, with funding from the Dunhill Medical Trust, the Sydney Dehaan Research Centre for Arts and Health established a network of 6 singing groups for people with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, in East Kent. Over 100 people with mild to very severe COPD participated in the study, which ran until June 2012. Careful monitoring of participants with lung function measures and standardised health questionnaires revealed positive benefits from regular group singing. In the third of 3 short films about the research and its findings, researchers, facilitators and participants talk about the study and its findings. The film provides a documentary record of how the groups gained in confidence and came together to give public performances.
For a number of years we've been pursuing a programme of research looking at the value of singing for well-being and health. And as the work has developed, we've become more and more interested in the value of singing for older people with long-term conditions. Lung function is so central to singing as an activity. And if we can show that regular singing is helpful for people with COPD, it supports the idea that it's singing per se that makes a difference, and not just the fact that people are coming together in a group to do something enjoyable and fun and social.
Bonny, bonny, bon, my bonny, 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 bon.
COPD is a family of health issues which have a declining prognosis, because basically it's lung damage. So we weren't going to get suddenly people becoming very well for other reasons. So there was a well-known decline line, and we hoped that we might be able to perhaps arrest that decline a little. And we would be well pleased if people actually stayed the same. But in fact, we were most surprised to find that people improved their lung function outputs. We're not saying that they're cured in any way, but that perhaps they're using what they've got better, more efficiently, due to the practice of the singing, the concentration on changing from shallow upper chest breathing to lower diaphragmatic breathing, and that becoming a habit.
I've got COPD, developed through smoking when I was 13 for 50 years. Plus I worked in the building trade as a plasterer. So I've been exposed to a lot of dust one way or another, most of my working life. So that doesn't help. And then suddenly COPD just got hold of me. I just thought I was ready to bear smoking too much. But that wasn't the case. My lungs were damaged beyond repair. I stopped smoking. Of course, didn't make any difference. So since then, I've just been doing anything I can to improve my lot, if you like.
We heard about the group and felt that it would be beneficial to come to that group if it's going to help his breathing and his well-being altogether, as well as mixing socially with other people of like illness.
I went for tests, usual tests, blowing and the usual business. I'm not a bad treatment. I just went through all the necessary checks. And then my doctor said, I went to get the results. She said, you've got COPD and it will kill you, or something related to it. So that was it. And it is doing, slowly, you know, I go worse each year. But you just live day at a time, you know. I'm not worried at all. I enjoy my life, I tell you, a lot more than a lot of other people. Because I'm doing this singing and everything else.
He looks forward to coming, whereas some things that we do, perhaps it's a little bit hang for, oh, do we need to? Or instead of that, he doesn't. He looks forward to coming, and he really does say, and I'm not just saying this for you, he really does say, oh, do you know, I feel a lot better for going. I really do, my breathing's better. And then, of course, socially, he's made so many friends. That's it, you know. All in all, it's a good thing to do. And we do it together.
It does definitely help me to clear my chest. Even when I come in here sometimes, especially when the weather's a bit cold, my chest's a bit tight. Once we've done some warming up singing exercises, my chest clears. So then I started taking that with me outside of singing. And it helps me all through my life, really. You know, when I walk upstairs or walking in shopping centres, anything like that. I still use the exercise I've learned here out there.
Forward again, just stretching out the ribs at the back.
We were very keen to establish a community-based study in which people came together to form small choirs that met regularly over an extended period of time so that we could really test whether regular singing was beneficial for health and well-being, and particularly for lung function. So we set it up as a community singing project. Over 100 people with COPD were recruited into the study. They met weekly, led by skilled facilitators. And in addition to meeting weekly to sing together, we also, on a number of occasions, brought the groups together for large-scale choral workshops and performance events. So we were very much wanting people to feel that they were engaged together in singing as a choir. And typically, when people join choirs, they will rehearse week by week, but they also want to perform. So we wanted to have this performance element to the project because we felt that this would really test whether singing in the usual kind of way when people join choirs would have benefits for people with COPD.
We're bringing people together to sing and to monitor the effect on their health. But we know that singing is good for people socially. We know we're going to feel better if we all meet together. And that was evident from day one. The groups became cohesive, they became friends, they were inclusive, and that was just so good for everybody. And they formed an identity with the facilitator, but also of their own. And people valued that.
Everyone's in the same boat. It's not like there's one person with COPD going into a normal choir where everybody's fantastic. Everyone was in the same boat and everyone was starting together. So there was a sort of camaraderie about it, I think, of, we're all in the same boat, let's just give it a go, I think.
The main thing that really stood out was how they gained confidence in various ways, and in concentrating on the songs and the singing exercises, they often forgot about the problems with their breathing, and you could see this happening sometimes, that people were so engrossed in just joining in with the group and the singing that they were managing to breathe quite well.
It's a job to know when it started, but it's not difficult to know when it got worse. I get very breathless. I can't walk very far. That's my biggest problem, walking. Well, certainly, like now, after I've just had a singing session, I feel my lungs feel better. I feel as though I've got more capacity. I can take a deep breath. Sometimes when I actually start, I think, am I up for this today, really? But at the end, I really feel as though I've exercised my lungs, and it feels quite good. It's enjoyable because it's a bit of a laugh. You know, I've got to know the people in the group, and the people who run it have got quite good, all seem to have a good sense of humour. We laugh at ourselves when we do daft things. So really, yeah, it is quite a laugh, actually.
I must admit, I was a bit sceptical, but again, I'm a natural cynic anyway. But I thought, yeah, we'll have a go. You know, just go along for the crack. You know, even if it doesn't, you know, benefit me health-wise. But I'm glad it has, yeah. And it's actually blown a lot of my cynicism away, really. Yeah. Well, basically, it developed through smoking, 40-odd years of smoking. You know, you look back and you say, yeah, I shouldn't have started, but hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And, well, it's hard to breathe. And it sort of impacts on, well, all parts of your life, you know. Just ordinary everyday living, you know. Some things are an effort. Although this singing's really helped, they're becoming less, you know, becoming easier to do. I used to find it hard, like things like showering. That was a bit of a problem, and sort of getting dressed in the morning, you know, sitting on the side of the bed, putting my socks on, stuff like that. But now it's much easier, and I can seem to sort of draw deeper breaths and stuff like this. It's really, I found it beneficial anyway. Yeah, and I thank them for that.
If on a daily basis washing and dressing and shopping and doing any sort of activity is causing breathlessness, we're at the mercy of that if we have COPD. And a lot of times people with COPD will have to stop and sit and wait to get their breath back.
And take some nice deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth.
What singing does is to help control that. So these people with COPD learn that they can control their out-breath. So that if they're going around the supermarket and they become breathless, they can actually employ some of the exercises that we do in the singing groups, and it just reminds them of how they breathe and how to get control of it. Singing also makes you feel better generally, and if you've got a chronic disease like COPD, there's nothing better than taking on an activity that makes you feel good.
We used several measures. The most important one from a questionnaire point of view was the St George's Respiratory Questionnaire. This is quite a famous questionnaire used all over the world in trials and studies, and it was invented at St George's Hospital in South London by Professor Paul Jones, who's involved with us in this study. You would expect over the period of time that we did this study that the score would deteriorate by about 2 points, and in fact it improved by 3 1/3, say. And even drug trials found difficulty in reaching that kind of a shift. So we were very pleased with that. But also we did physical tests. We had people blowing into spirometers, which give a graph and tell you all about things. And two main measures there. There is the amount of air that someone can expel within 1 second. So they take a deep breath and they then get as much out as they can within 1 second. And that's often difficult. Asthmatics will tell you that. Breathing out is more difficult than breathing in. And there you would expect a deterioration of about 40 millilitres, and in fact there was an improvement of about 30 millilitres. And some people increased by a clinically important 120 millilitres or more. About 25% did that, so quite remarkable really. And then the other measure is more of a lung capacity. Again, you take a deep breath, you breathe out, but you've got as long as you like. You just keep breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. And this gives a guide to your capacity. And again, people improved on average by 110 millilitres, again, quite surprisingly. So there were the three main ones from the clinical point of view. But we also had, they expressed how they felt about the programme. We had general health questionnaires, etc., to back all this up.
It's estimated that something like 3 million people in the UK are affected by this condition. And in the course of our study, we did have people say to us that by comparison to previous years, while they'd been engaged in the singing project, they'd not needed to see their doctor so much, they'd not needed to go into hospital, they'd not needed courses of antibiotics for chest infections that they had in previous years. So these kinds of reports coming from people that took part in the study are indicative of the kinds of benefits that the NHS ought to be interested in, because the potential for cost saving is very great indeed.
It's very demoralising not being able to do what you could do a few years ago, and everything is an effort, and you can't walk like you used to do, and it's so restricting. And I think, yes, any of these things that can avoid hospitalisation and more drug treatment, I think it can only be good.
Well, it's certainly done me a power of good. I mean, all the pills and potions in the world couldn't have done what Singing for Health has done for me. I'll tell you honest, really. I'm really, I'm really pleased that I started doing it. Hope it goes on forever, really.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come